Is this proof Biden has dementia?
Mr. Reagan.
So the other day, I was making my bed, and there's this one difficult spot in which it's kind of difficult to walk through. There's a big steamer trunk right next to a film lamp, and the legs of the film lamp come out, and it's just awkward to walk through. Now, normally, I would just glance at where I was going to step, and I would continue with my typical gait, and I would just walk around this stuff. But on that day, for some reason, I was like being lazy or something, and I thought, well, you know what? Instead of paying attention, instead of looking where I'm going, I'm just going to take tiny little steps, move around the bed really slowly and hope I don't hit anything. Why did I do this? I don't know. But after I adopted this strategy, I immediately felt like a senile old man. The image that popped into my head, in fact, as I was walking in this shuffling little tiny step way, was Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy seems to take little baby steps everywhere he goes. The drug use over the years seems to have eroded his brain, so much in fact that he can no longer walk like a normal human being. And then it occurred to me, there's somebody else who takes strange steps, who walks kind of funny pretty much everywhere he goes. Joe Biden.
Democratic Party, who were completely freaked out. Apparently in New York, you go around the city of New York these days, you see people everywhere outdoors walking.
Whatever happened to your promise from 7 weeks ago that if Democrats flipped the Senate, the checks were going out the door?
Now, at first, I didn't think this necessarily had to do with dementia. At first, I thought it might have something to do, simply with being old. Old people, I thought, may lack just like the muscle strength and the coordination that is needed to navigate the same way that younger people do. And also, older people are often concerned with falling. If you or I fall, we immediately get back up. We brush ourselves off. We look around to make sure that nobody saw us, and we carry on our merry way. But if an old person falls, there's a fair chance they're going to break a bone. And if they do, then they have to go to the hospital. So for old people, I suspect, they may often just take baby steps both because of a lack of ability and because of a concern of falling. But then I typed into my search engine the words gait and, right? I wrote gait and I was going to write gait and health. But what popped up in the suggestion thing was gait and dementia. I was blown away, was not expecting that. And so down the rabbit hole I climbed. And I'll tell you what I discovered in one moment. First, I have to sell you something. Now, spring is here, and what do we do in spring? Spring cleaning. The mower needs to be sorted, the garden looks a little bit wrecked, and the barbecue needs some work. You might enjoy doing these jobs, but if you don't, or you can't, you're going to need to pay somebody else, and that takes a bit of money. And let's face it, putting money aside for comfortable retirement is the only way that you're going to get out of doing the lawn yourself, right? And if you got a little bit of money saved up in the bank, well, that way you can visit the kids, you can hike the trail, you can play golf, all the things that your friends are doing. And Noble Gold can help with this by investing in precious metals along with your other investments. A gold or silver IRA is a great way of doing this. And this month, Noble Gold is gifting a genuine rare Carson City minted Morgan silver dollar with every qualifying IRA or 401k that you invest with. And this thing is fantastic. I mean, even just the case, I love this thing. See, because I actually really love old coins and stuff like that. And it's absolutely beautiful. I looked it up, and these things are a nice little chunk of change, and it's genuinely old. I mean, apparently these things were distributed in the 70s. They were obviously minted in the 19th century. In 1964, after a century in obscurity in the vaults. So these were in like the vaults. And so in the 1960s, they were like, okay, let's go ahead and distribute these. And I think the initial offering was like $15, and all these collectors bought them up. But yeah, now that you can get one in this nifty case, I mean, this thing, it's beautiful. It really is sort of like an old-fashioned thing that you can have, and it reminds you of better days in America when everybody wasn't so woke and crazy. People say that, if you're nostalgic for the old times, you're nostalgic for oppression. No. If you're nostalgic for the old times, you're nostalgic for a time in America where people respected things like morality and ethics and not like wokeness and horrible things like that. But when people they actually had a sense of integrity. And I think people long for those days. All right, so if you want one of these Carson City coins and you want to invest in an IRA or a 401k, get in touch with the experts at noblegoldinvestments.com or call 877-646-5347. and talk to the experts now. That's 877-646-5347, or you can go to the website noblegoldinvestments.com or click the link in the description below. All right, so one of the first things that was suggested to me in my research was a YouTube video by a doctor named Rihanna McArdle. This woman is a researcher with the Brain and Movement Research Group, and she has researched the connection between gait and dementia, and the connection is fascinating. The audio is pretty abysmal, but this is a very short clip, and I think it's very important. Let's watch.
So why did we think about looking at gait and dementia? Well, gait often appears as an automatic function, but actually it requires complex cognitive processes. So when a person begins to experience cognitive impairment, they may also experience gait impairments. And that research has actually shown that gait impairments occur prior to onset of dementia. So for example, a person may experience their walking slowing down or their steps shortening in the years prior to them developing cognitive problems. And as such, gait appears to be a red flag for dementia diagnosis.
Did you catch that? Gait shortening. When the gait of an older person shortens, she says, this can be a sign of dementia even before dementia sets in. Now, I would argue that with Joe Biden, dementia set in long ago. But either way, this is, according to the research, indeed a sign of dementia. So I tried to look up examples of gait impairment due to dementia, and I really couldn't find any good visual examples, just doctors talking about it, which was really frustrating. But what I did find was a video on Parkinson's. Now, if you notice, the gait symptoms associated with moderate Parkinson's very closely resemble Biden's gait. You have this decreased arm swing. You have the reduced axial rotation, or like hip rotation, right? You have the hunched over walk. I mean, this is Biden exactly. The only difference that I can see is that people with Parkinson's apparently shuffle their feet when they walk, whilst Biden seems to almost have this exaggerated knee bend, almost like he's riding a bicycle, right? But I don't think this exaggerated motion is caused by whatever neurological disorder that he might be suffering from, but rather, I think it might be an overcompensation. That is, I think Biden's handlers may fear that the media will notice that Biden's gait has all the hallmarks of neurological degradation, and so I suspect that Biden is going through some kind of physiotherapy to treat the resulting physical symptoms. And part of that treatment may be this exaggerated compensation for a natural inclination to shuffle. And so perhaps Biden has Parkinson's. I mean, that is possible. But here's another theory. Biden may not have Parkinson's. Rather, he may have Lewy body dementia. I found one source that suggested that the physiological symptoms of Lewy body dementia, they're almost identical to that of Parkinson's. They're so similar, in fact, that these two disorders are often misdiagnosed for one another. Primarily, Lewy body dementia is often misdiagnosed as Parkinson's. But the problem with all these theories is that I'm not a neurologist. I can't tell you which neurological disorder best matches Biden's gait. What I can tell you is that the way Biden walks is very different from the way he walked just a few years back.
Well, he really is a senator, and having some doubts about the Senate seniority system, while hoping older members won't hold his age against him.
I think we should handle this fellow.
Most people think that people doing Marshall's job punch the clock, put in their time.
Mr. Vice President! Mr. Vice President! Hey, how you doing? Come on, come on! Come on! Whoa! They won't let you! Are you? That's it! Yes!
I also noticed that Biden jogs quite a bit. I think most people think that he does this to make people think that he's physically fit and to dissuade people from thinking that he's physically deteriorating. However, I suspect that his feeble jog tends to have the opposite effect. I think most people see him jogging and they just kind of turn away a bit embarrassed, realizing what he's doing and recognizing that he is in poor health. He's old. But whatever the case, I think we all kind of suspect that this is his motivation, right? To make people think he's young and healthy. However, he may also be motivated to jog because it disguises the distinctive walk which indicates neurological disease. I don't know. This is all just speculation, but I think it's an important thing to consider, to talk about, and to perhaps get the perspective of neurologists on. Because so far, I haven't heard anyone talking about this. And from the little research I've done, this should be an obvious sign of a problem to anyone in this field. And hopefully this video will trigger some kind of discussion on the matter. Well, that's it for me. And remember, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much that is not so. Good night.
Those who would trade our freedom for the soup kitchen of the welfare state have told us they have a utopian solution of peace without victory. They call their policy accommodation. They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. That we want our national policy based on what we know in our hearts is morally right.